Hi, welcome back to Chesapeake Men's Health, and today I want to talk to you about different types of diets. I'm going to start a new series where I discuss different diets, and you might find one that really fits well for you and what you're looking for to get out of a quality nutrition plan. And everyone seems to be on a weight loss journey at some point in their life, and mine is a tale as old as time. It's called trial and error. I've tried so many diets, calorie counting, exercise, fasting, juicing, you name it. I've probably given it a try, and it wasn't until I found um, the current diet that I'm on that I actually started making a consistent weight loss in a sustainable way. And this diet might surprise you. It it might even outright shock some of you that are, listening to this video. So, the staple food in the diet that I'm on has been vilified for years, but it's actually one of the healthiest superfoods known to mankind. And if you haven't guessed it yet, I'm on the carnivore diet. And what is the carnivore diet? Well, it's just like what it sounds like. The carnivore diet is eating meat or animal products, no fruits, no vegetables, nothing else. And I know some of the skeptics out there rolling their eyes thinking, I could never do this diet. There's no way this is healthy. You're going to have high cholesterol. You're going to have a heart attack. And I was a skeptic too. But the more I dove into the rabbit hole, I began to understand what makes this diet so superior to other diets. And also, beyond that, it wasn't until I started a very strict carnivore diet that I began to notice the extreme health benefits. And let's get back into what the diet is. So, there's a few different versions. So, one of the purest versions has been nicknamed the Lion's Diet, and that came up with the name is Michaela Peterson. And this involves eating only ruminant grazing animals such as beef, lamb, and bison, seasoned with salt, and then drinking water. And so this is the most inclusive form of carnivore. The standard carnivore diet involves eating all meat, but mostly people eat about 90% beef and 10% other meats, only seasoned with salt and water. Then there's the dirty carnivore diet, which includes adding things to make the carnivore diet easier to follow, such as seasoning, hot sauce, various spices, coffee, sugar-free sweeteners like monk fruit, stevia. And this form of the diet can be easily transitioned into a ketovore diet, which is mainly a carnivore diet, but mixing in some keto friendly diet foods like vegetables, nuts, but still having meats as the main focus of the diet. So, those are kind of all the different variations. So, why is the carnivore diet really healthy? Well, many of you would think this diet isn't healthy, but first let's compare it to the American standard diet. The food pyramid that we've been fed our whole lives, it has a lot of processed foods, and these processed foods tend to be very addictive. There are scientists that spend their whole lives designing flavor profiles and mixing in the perfect amount of salt, sugar, and fat to get the highest level dopamine hit in our brains. And there's marketers and advertisers that then package this food into types of packages that create the strongest desire for such foods. And this combination tends to lead to people eating too much processed foods, which tend to be high in sugar, fat, and carbohydrates. Now, on the carnivore diet, on the other hand, cuts out all the junk food and tends to help people get over the addictive properties that the foods on the American Standard Diet can cause. Well, the carnivore diet compared to the American Standard Diet is superior. But what if you compare it to its counterpart, say, like the vegan diet? Well, wouldn't that be more healthy? Because we've been told eating a lot of fruits and vegetables is really great for us. Well, if you compare the vegan diet to the American Standard Diet, it's healthier, but you can still eat a lot of processed foods on the vegan diet. And also, I believe many studies that compare the vegan diets to the ones that include meat do not account for the health bias that tends to be in the vegan community. Now, when you think of a vegan, you typically think of someone who's more health conscious than an American Standard Diet meat eating counterpart, right? And not until recently Was there even a study that looked at people just eating a meat only diet? So the studies that are comparing vegan diets to meat eating diets are usually looking at the meat eating diet as the American standard diet. So it's not comparing equally. They're including other elements in these studies that really detract from is eating meat bad for you or not, because it's in the presence of all this other junk food. So the closest diet studies that we currently have to a meat only diet would be looking at the ketogenic diet studies, which are similarly close. The carnivore diet tends to be more inclusive and just a stricter version of the ketogenic diet. And what these studies are finding are a reversal of type 2 diabetes, and a lot of other health symptoms tend to disappear when people are doing a strict keto diet. And what's interesting is, of course, I'm doing the carnivore diet and I watch a lot of carnivore diet content on YouTube. The weirdest thing is that a lot of people on the carnivore diet are actually ex-vegans. And although these stories that they tell are kind of anecdotal, they don't have studies about this, the stories all tend to be the same. They started on the vegan diet, they get healthier initially, and then about a year later they start to deteriorate, or if they are having autoimmune issues, they flare up more, they have fatigue, and it's just a variety of symptoms. And one of the most famous ex-vegans who converted to carnivore is Bear Grylls. You might have remembered him from this Man vs. Wild. He'd get dropped out of a helicopter, come down. Well, he was vegan for many years. He even created a vegan cookbook, and now he's completely carnivore. It was giving him a variety of health problems being vegan. And, he's just a famous person who did it. But these people are usually switching from vegan to carnivore. I have not seen any of the inverse, people going from a carnivore diet to a vegan diet. It just isn't happening. I've searched for it. I haven't found it. So why? Why is the carnivore diet better for humans? Well, first off, the human body is really not designed to process vegetables efficiently. Many animals, such as orangutans, have a special area in their bowels that is there for fermenting plant digestion and allowing their bodies to process it better. We actually have the same part in our bowels too, but it's very, very small, and it's called the appendix. It's theorized that the appendix has gotten smaller and smaller over time due to our evolution, and kind of signifying that we've evolved to run more efficiently on animal fats and proteins. But vegetables are good, right? I mean, come on. Everyone's been saying this for years and years and years. The problem with vegetables, and the reason why they're not very good, is, first of all, I want to make a point that when you eat an animal, they have a defense mechanism, right? They can run away. A plant does not have this defense mechanisms. They can't run away. So thus, they have to create a new way to prevent animals or people from eating them. And the way that they do this is mainly by creating phytotoxins. The human species eats a high amount of variety of vegetables also. So this is typically not found in other animals. Typically, animals that eat vegetables only eat a small subset of specific plants that are local to their region, much like how panda bears only eat bamboo leaves, and they simply can't tolerate other plant sources, and they've evolved to just eat that specific food. So the next thing to look at is that many plants in nature are simply poisonous. If you really think about all the plants that are all over the world, the vast majority of them we cannot eat. Because there's millions of plants, right? There's tons of plants. So when you're eating vegetables, what's happening on a smaller scale is that they're not super poisonous like they're going to kill you, but that over time, this small level of poison, these phytotoxins build up over time. And anecdotally, of course, they haven't done a lot of studies on this, but people with autoimmune issues like psoriasis and Crohn's disease, when they stop eating the vegetables, they tend to disappear. So these toxins are somehow starting to cause some damage in the body. And there's also an argument that it's a what's called a hormetic response, meaning like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, like a little bit of uh, negative stimulus on us would actually build us back stronger. The problem is that they haven't really isolated what that could be in plants, and it very well could be a hormetic response with something in the plants. Um, but for the most part, if you just quit eating them, they quit toxifying your body, so your body runs more cleanly. The next point to make is that many staple plants like wheat and corn are covered in glyphosate, and that can build up in our systems. Well, when you're eating beef, I want you to think about the cow. The cow has 4 stomachs to process grasses and filter out all those toxins from the grass and possibly grain. You know, a lot of our beef in America is grass fed most of its life and grain finished for a few months to fatten it up. So it's still processing out the toxins, you know, the potential glyphosate that's on that grain. Thus, you get a filtering mechanism when you eat beef. And this is why people with autoimmune issues that have resolved from eating beef sometimes eat something like chicken or a monogastric animal that might have been grain fed, and they'll start to have their symptoms flare up. So you're probably thinking, well, isn't this a hard diet to follow? Well, yes and no. It's a really simple diet, so it's pretty easy from a perspective, you know what's on it. But, you know, people like variety, right? But here's how I like to think of it. I think of it as not an exclusive diet, like where you exclude things. I think of it as an inclusive diet, kind of like a nightclub where you're only letting the cool people inside. You're not restricting that nightclub. It's just that you're making it a better environment for everyone who's inside of it. And initially, as your body gets used to the no sugar, no carbs, and if you're new to keto, you'll probably have headaches and feel cravings and have this whole experience known as the keto flu. But over time, your body adapts and it makes ketones and it'll be able to function with steady energy. Interesting story. I went to do my a weekend in Chicago for studying for my boards, and everyone was eating all these carbohydrates all day. So they'd eat breakfast. 2 hours later, they got to get their carb fix. 2 hours later, they got to eat lunch. 2 hours later, they got to get a carb fix. 2 hours later, they have to have dinner. So it's like people just couldn't study. They were all falling asleep during the review class. I was there, you know, carnivore, keto, just pure focus the whole time, steady energy. So that's the kind of mental focus and physical energy you tend to have over time as your body becomes fat adapted. And it can take a long time to become fat adapted and use fat as your fuel, but it gets better and better the more you keep going. And the jump from dirty carnivore to ketovore to pure carnivore is a challenge, and typical problems that can arise is like going out to parties and not cheating on your diet. But for me, the weight finally started coming off my body when I've been really consistent with doing very strict, like dirty carnivore with beef, seasoning, black coffee, no dairy. That's really started to have my weight drop off. So for me, I'm kind of on a streak now, so I wouldn't break it just to have some party food or appease someone. You know, that's typical. Someone makes something, they want you to try it. I'm not going to appease someone by eating their dessert. But at first, heck yeah, I'd crave it. I'd fall off. I was weak. But the key is we all fall off, right? But it's how fast you get back on. And over time, you tend to stay on longer, fall off less, get back on quicker. So it just becomes easier and easier. So I'm constantly working on adapting my carnivore diet to balance my life with the health benefits along with the pleasure from the food I eat. And when dieting, your body is your own personal experiment. So going carnivore takes all the variables out, and you start to reintroduce foods in to test what foods are not optimal for your body. So in the past few weeks, I tried to incorporate a Ninja Creamy into my diet. It makes these like homemade ice creams that you can make a lot cleaner than the store-bought ice creams. And I found things made with whole milk, they do not make me gain weight, but they do not cause me to lose weight really. So one week I did those. I really didn't lose weight, but I didn't gain weight. The next week I ate half a watermelon, and I was making these watermelon sorbets, which tend to be lower calorie than the whole milk treats. Well, eating that watermelon caused me to gain in one day 3.5 pounds, and perhaps, granted, it's probably some water weight, but it's taken me a couple weeks of strict carnivore to get that weight loss turned around and trend back downward. And I can just tell you from my personal experience that I can observe these variables and how they affect my body. And at this time, it's not always a pleasant experience when you find that something that you want to have on your diet isn't going to work for you. Like, watermelon tastes amazing. I wish that I could be the type of person that could eat all this meat and fruit. Like this guy Carnivore MD, he does a carnivore diet, but he adds fruit and honey in. Well, great. He doesn't gain weight. He's doing great. But for me, it instantly makes me stop losing weight or reverse and gain weight. So I have to be real strict. And this can be common for people on the carnivore diet. So, hey, this is my take on the carnivore diet. It's what's working for me. In the future, I'm going to talk about different diets and weight loss strategies that may fit better for you. Things like the slow carb diet, intermittent fasting, calories in, calories out, macros. There's a lot of different versions, and it's really about finding what works for you. But for now, the carnivore and dirty carnivore diet is working really well for my lifestyle. All right, well, that wraps up today's video. Take care.